This is Love is Love. Yes. How's everybody doing this beautiful Sunday morning? As you can see, I'm outside and I'm with my wonderful peeps here today to talk to you about topics of love, which today's topic is going to be all about healing. But first and foremost, I got to introduce you to my squad. We got the amazing Chris, who's pointing at himself because he's all about himself right now. Chris, introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Flippen. I'm a happiness coach here in San Francisco, California. And so if anybody needs to be a little bit happier, go ahead and you can click the link below and give me a buzz. We'll get you started.
Awesome. Next, we have the amazing Greg.
Hello, hello, hello. Hey, everybody. My name is Greg Goebel, and I am a gay life coach. I live in Colorado Springs, and I help gay men transform their lives by understanding their worth, to help them realize that the most important relationship that they will ever have is the one with themselves. And once you do that, you love yourself, then you build that foundation for who you are, and you can create an everlasting and a beautiful relationship with other people as well. So glad to be here. Thank everybody for participating and joining in. This is going to be a wonderful podcast.
And of course, guys, we have my full-time partner that I work with all the time on the ambulance, Elise.
Hello, everyone. My name's Elise. I'm from Connecticut. I work as an EMT right now, and I am a realist.
And that's as real as it gets, folks. That's as real as it gets. And of course, everyone, I am lovely lady Liz, and I'm just here to inspire, motivate, transform, and make a difference in this world globally. So one step at a time, one person at a time, I will gladly illuminate and change your life in the best way possible. So now that we got our introductions off, I feel that the topic of healing was something that me and Chris were talking about because we were talking about relationships last Sunday. And I think a big question so many people, it doesn't matter what age group you're in or whether or not you are in a relationship or not, had at one point struggled on healing from a relationship. So I wanted to ask my amazing team over here, what advice you can give first and foremost on someone who right now is hurting from a relationship?
Crickets.
No, anyone.
Right, so I guess I'll go since one of the biggest things for me, because I literally just recently, like in February, just kind of picked myself back up. So the biggest thing for me was realizing that no one else is responsible for my happiness other than me. That was, and then once I realized that, is really starting to accept responsibility for my role in that relationship, whether it was the victim or the perpetrator, I still played a role in that, right? Because I could have taken myself out at any point of that situation. I could have walked away and I didn't. So if I'm considering myself the victim in that situation, I still had a role in that. I allowed that person to treat me in a manner that wasn't acceptable to me. And so the first thing that I did though was realize that I can't put my happiness in somebody else's hands and expect them to be as vigilant about it as myself.
Nice. Greg, Elise?
Yeah. It's so funny because I hear what he's saying, and that's so true because I always say there are no victims, only volunteers. And there comes a point in our life where, yeah, right? He said, yeah, peace. There comes a point in our life where we got to grow up, and there has to be this maturation process that takes place where we go from the caterpillar to the cocoon to ultimately the butterfly. And so that takes hard work. And for me personally, what I suggest is for people to take some stock and inventory of who they are, kind of analyze the relationship, have some time for yourself in reflection and in meditation, and kind of connect to source, which lives and breathes through us. And then when you do that, you're able to get a little bit more clarity. Now, a lot of people say, well, meditation is great, but I don't have time. Well, we have time to do other things, so we can make time for meditation, where even if it's just 10 minutes, where we can just breathe and connect and feel a sense of wholeness. A lot of times we look for a wholeness outside of ourselves in a relationship or with sex or with drugs or what have you. And then what happens is we find ourselves insecure because we're relying on other people's happiness and not, taking personal responsibility for our own, just like he was talking about. And so I think it's imperative to have that time to reflect, to take stock and inventory, and then kind of analyze, what do I need to do here? Is this relationship worth staying in? Is this relationship helping me grow as a person? Is that person helping me evolve by allowing me to be who I need to be? Am I being too controlling or whatever? We need to analyze that. And then when we get a little bit clarity, then we can make better decisions for the relationship and for ourselves as well. So
That was good.
I definitely agree with all of that. Like, how can you heal from something if you don't know what you're healing from? So you need to really analyze and take a step back and think about, like, what exactly you're healing from, like what in that situation hurt you, so that you can properly heal. And meditation and definitely self preservation is a big step on that. You can't expect to be happy through other things, if you can't make yourself happy and know what it takes to make yourself happy. Because a lot of people, don't even know how to make themselves smile nowadays. They look for so many things on the outside to, like, compensate. So it's really a lot of self-reflection.
I definitely agree. I feel that a lot of the times when people are in relationships and the relationships break, they have the tendency to always blame themselves and put themselves in a very dark place as to what is it that they did wrong, why them, and kind of like what you guys were saying earlier about victimizing yourself as like you're the victim of the situation instead of taking it as a lesson. Because personally, there's nothing in life that you're going to go through that you can't learn from. Everything, good, bad, medium, ugly or not, everything is a growing and learning experience. And when it comes to, especially like breakups in general, many people tend to take it in a negative direction and reflect on it in a negative way instead of learning from it and sitting down and, like you were saying, Lisa, what is it that happened? How can you grow from this? What can you change? So in a group that, I'm in Eric Ho's creative circle, I see this question so often. Just don't know how to get over an ex or how to move on forward from an ex, and they're stuck and they tend to end up getting into a very depressive state. How can we as inspiring leaders help these individuals or teach them a way where they can grow out of that dark space so they can actually start loving themselves and be able to function again back in society, to open themselves in the future for relationship, to be able to love, give love and receive love?
Well, it's so funny. I used to think that a relationship, I had to hunt it down and kill it. I thought I was just so desperate to have someone in my life, and I was looking for someone that could love me. But after years of spiritual study and understanding, it wasn't about me trying to get. What, if anything, it was about what my true nature was, which is about how to give to another person. And years ago, someone came up to me and they said, a relationship is one person where there's a hole like this, a full circle, and then another full circle. And what I was doing, I was meshing both of those together. And there was no feeling of a sense of wholeness for myself because I was so interconnected with them. But then what they said is the relationship, when you overlap the circles, there's a huge difference. That way you're integrated in the relationship, but you still have your own individuality within the relationship. So that it's not all encompassing and it's not controlling and that type of thing. So.
Right. Yeah. And, I wanted to mention something, like, at least when you were talking, one of the things for me was big, and like, this is a question that I have to all the listeners out there right now, is how can you expect anybody to love you if you don't love yourself?
Facts.
How can you expect anybody to respect you if you don't respect yourself? And even further, how can you expect anybody to accept you for who you are if you don't accept yourself for who you are? I mean,
Exactly.
those questions were really big for me. Like, along with realizing, so how do I start taking control over my own happiness, right? And so in asking myself those questions, it's like, I can't expect somebody to do something for me that I'm not willing to do for myself. And the hardest thing when I was with my ex-wife for 13 years, and so it's like when that fell apart, it was really like, at first it was devastating, right? But then the way I was able to come out of that was realizing is like, well, I didn't respect myself. How could I have expected her to respect me? If I didn't love myself, how can I expected her to love me? And and I think that a lot of us, like, and for me, I know it was like, I don't know when or how or what it was that made me fall out of love for myself or out of respect for myself, but it happened, just a little bit, chipped away over time. Until for anybody who's out, any listeners who are out there right now wondering to themselves, why am I having such a hard time getting this person to love me? Or why am I having such a hard time getting this person to respect me? It's because you're not doing that for yourself.
So you're missing something.
I really like the 2-circle thing, because that is the infinity.
Oh, yeah. Good point. I love that. Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding.
And I really, back to the question you asked, Liz, when they asked, like, what say the question again?
It was more like they blame themselves and they feel like they did something wrong and they end up hating themselves or putting themselves in a very depressive state to try to get either their ex back or try to get anyone just to fill that void. Right. When not understanding, it's like, how can you help them from stop that pattern interrupt, that mentality, that wavelength of thinking, and change them into more positive direction to where they can learn that it's within yourself, that you can grow, love yourself, and get yourself out of that dark space. Like, how can we help get them out of that dark space?
I think it's just the question needs to change. Like, they just need to think, like, what did I learn from this? Like, what can I take to do better and be better and be more aware? Because even if it's not, like Chris said, everyone plays a role. So what role did I play? What role did they play? So I can be more conscious of when these signs or these people that have these, intentions, I can see what's good and what's bad.
Sorry, I just wanted to touch on that because Liz and I were talking, and I told her that all my traumas, all the things that I feel were losses in the past, are now lessons, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think too, we need to honor our feelings. So when we're in the throes of a breakup, when we're going in the middle of that, sometimes that can be, or it can feel like the dark night of the soul. And so I think it's really, really imperative to honor those feelings. And the reason being is, if we don't, we're going to carry those negative vibes that we got going on, that what I call the energetic signature, if you will. And we are going to project or overlay that into the next relationship. And that's not fair to the next person.
So true.
And so when you honor your feelings and you deal with what's coming up and you realize, okay, I've got to take some of this responsibility. Even if they cheated on you, a lot of people want to blame, and they don't understand that maybe they cheated because there was no intimacy left in the relationship. And that's partly you too, because you cheated from the standpoint that you didn't give love fully. Now, this isn't about blame. This is about taking personal responsibility. And then you're like, okay, aha, I got my spiritual aha. I got that spiritual 2x4 upside the head that woke me up and realized, okay, I'm not going to let that happen anymore. I'm going to be aware of what's going on in my life so that I can be more love, be more light into all of my relationships. And here's another thing. Hallmark got it wrong. They were saying that we got to have this one person that we got to love, and we got to cherish them and hold them tight. And that's a wonderful thing. And it's great to have that intimacy with one person. It sure is. But we're one. There's a collective consciousness, and love is love straight across the board. And that means that we can't just leave anyone out of the picture, regardless of what they look like or who they are or how they show up in life. Now, does that mean we want to do lunch with them on Tuesday, even if they're an asshole? No. But we can still send love and light their direction and hold them in a space where they can't hold it for themselves. So.
Definitely.
Can you fully heal, guys? Can you fully heal from anyone, whether it's a intimate relationship, a personal relationship, a friendship, of someone who has hurt you, if you have not been able to forgive yourself or them?
I don't think you can, personally. I mean, I really, honestly, I don't think you can, because, and for example, I dated someone who had narcissistic personality disorder, and that really, really ruined me. For those of you guys who know me and met me, like, Liz, can you imagine me completely ruined? I mean, that's like, right? So to be completely, and 2 years, 3 years after the relationship, I was still ruined, right? Because I hadn't forgiven that person. And I remember, I don't know if I've told you this story or not, Liz, but I remember sitting there I was on a computer, writing this person a forgiveness letter, right? And there was so I was in a room where there was other people in there, right? It's kind of like a common area. And I remember the minute that the letter started off as more of an FU letter, right? Like, I can't believe you did all this stuff to me, right? But then I realized, after reading an article in Psychology Today about embracing your pain and allowing that to come through, and like you were saying, Greg, is like to actually let them process, right? Is I sent that the second I hit enter on that keyboard, poof, it was all gone. And I remember standing up and going, "You have to be fucking kidding me! It was that easy? Like, are you fucking kidding? No way!" Right? It tripped me out, And I couldn't believe, boom, just like that, forgiving that person. I mean, like, some serious hate on this person, right? Like, I told myself, like, there was no way I would ever forgive this person. And yet I finally did, and like that, all those emotions, all the remorse, all the grief and resentment was all gone. And so one of the things that I want to mention real quick before someone else talks is that Liz and I were talking about, and it's just something I want to touch on what you said, Greg, is letting those emotions pass through, right? Mm-hmm. So I at this point now in my life, I'll allow myself to feel the emotions once, right? So that I can learn from them. So I know what it is that I need to heal. So for example, if like something comes up, like for it's like, oh my God, is she ever going to call me? Right. And then it's like, oh, well, you'll never see her again. Oh, well, this is going to happen. Or maybe this is going on. Right. As soon as I allow myself to feel all those and I recycle back to the first one, right, I know that I know that all the feelings that I'm going to feel about that have gone through. Right. And then at that point there, if I'm recycling, I stop it. Right? I'm trying to be conscious about those emotions that I have. And I think that's what we need to do to heal, is be conscious about our emotions. And if you're recycling the feelings, it's time to start learning from what you experienced. Otherwise, it's just going to be a consistent, incessant cycle of that voice in your head.
You know what I always say? It's like, let's say you have a broken leg and you put the cast on and you're healing, you're doing what needs. And it's interesting about the human body. It's so incredible because think about it. You heal after a certain period of time. And it's like a starfish. We probably could even grow another leg if we wanted to, if we knew how to do that on a conscious basis. But we're not there in our consciousness yet.
Right.
However, so if we go to the doctor and he takes off the cast, what happens? We need to start walking without it anymore. What is she looking at?
I don't know, Liz. Stop it.
Sorry.
Come on over there, girl.
My dog is crying.
Oh no. Okay. So anyway, I think it's imperative that once the cast comes off, that you don't keep going back to the doctor. You need to, like what you were talking about. You felt the feeling, you went through it, you processed it. Now you need to get to the other side and ultimately take those baby steps and start getting stronger in who you are. And what I'm trying to say is, you're not ready for a relationship yet, because you're still healing. Even though the cast has come off, you're still healing. You need time in order to, even in the AA and the Al-Anon programs, they always tell you, wait 1 year before you try to get involved in a relationship, because there's so much work that needs to be done and processed in your head. And that takes a while. You need some perspective.
Anyone else?
I feel like long-term healing is definitely can be done. Like 100% you can be healed. It's just not a quick fix, you know. And as a like starting the healing process, like number one, that's for you and only you. Like no one can tell you how to do it, or you gotta do it for yourself first and foremost in order to heal. Once you're ready, you got to make that decision and take that first step and leave. And you can't think about the next person or the person who did you wrong and why you're healing, because that's what's going to hinder the healing process.
And then me, like, coming from experience of, I was in a 10-year relationship where I got my ass whooped every single freaking day. To the point where I finally left, and it was a great big relief for me, but I was still broken. I was still 100% broken, to where I would think about every single day taking my car and running him over and over and over and over again until there was nothing left of his body. I must have thought about that probably for 3 years straight. 3 years. Every single moment I dreamt about it. I said it. I felt it, and it brought me the best relief of joy thinking to put him in that state.
Oh, Lord, have mercy.
Listen, to the point where one day, I don't know what, I went to his grandfather's funeral, and it was almost 3 years after I broke up with him, realized I still hated him. I still ultimately hated him, and I just couldn't even fathom to look at him. The following year, his grandmother passed away. But within that year, I said to myself, what is the point of hating him? I get so angry, and I want to punch him, and I want to do everything he did to me, but what is that going to accomplish for me? What joy am I going to get afterwards? If I didn't like him hurting me, why then would I hurt him? Why would I give upon someone else something that I know doesn't feel good? So I, battling my own demons, I finally decided to go to his grandmother's funeral. And once again, I was face to face with him. And he didn't know how to respond. He didn't know whether to get close to me or not. I went up to him, I grabbed him, I hugged him, and I said, I forgive you. When I tell you, it felt like I lost like 100 fucking pounds off my body. It just like that, gone.
Yep.
Everything was right. It was. I was able to breathe again. I felt that peace in my heart that hurt for so long, and it was so bleeding so desperately, no longer was broken anymore.
Yeah.
So it definitely is something like Elise said, in time. Everyone has their own time. You can forgive someone in a day or 2 days. There's nothing of a given time that's right or wrong. It's when you look within yourself and you ask yourself, why? Why do I feel this way? Why am I feeling this way? What can I do so I don't feel this way? What have I learned from this? So when you start actually answering these questions that you have such a gap about, you're going to start the self-realization process and realize that, okay, well, this is what I got to do to change. This is how I'm going to change my attitude. This is how I'm going to change my mindset. This is how I'm going to change my inner being with myself. I'm going to love myself, embrace myself, and then be able to move forward into whatever the next situation is going to be.
Can I just say that healing is so important, because you don't want to get into another situation and you're not fully over and healed, because that person's going to suffer Like, and then you can really potentially ruin a good thing. You know, you want, ultimately, everyone deserves love. Genuine, true, real love. You know,
Facts.
but if you're not healed properly, it's just going to be a vicious cycle, because
Over and over.
you're going to bring the dirt from the past to the new, and it's not going to last.
And, you know, I wanted to say something about forgiveness real quick, you know, for all the listeners out there right now. I really, one thing that I would, out of if there's anything that you get from everything that's being said today about forgiveness, understand this. You know, a lot of the times that we hold on to the hate and the resentment because we don't want to forgive someone because we don't feel that they deserve it. Okay? If we understand that forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for us. Right? And the thing is, just because you forgive someone doesn't mean that you condone their behavior or that it makes what they did to you okay, or what, you know, whatever it may be, the situation may be. It's not that at all. What you're telling that other person is, I would no longer give you control over my emotions anymore. I'll no longer allow you to have that space in my heart so I can remove that out of there and let something good come in. Because the more hate that you hold on to, and resentments and regret and grief and remorse, that's taking up all this precious real estate in your heart, and nothing else can fit in there. You want all this good stuff to come in, but where's it going to fit if it's all the real estate's taken up? So by forgiving someone, you clear out the space in your heart for all the good to start coming in.
I love that. Real estate. Real estate.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I love that.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I was working with a client a couple of weeks ago. We just actually finished up with some work, and he's moving on, and he's doing a lot better. He's doing great. But he has an issue with his mother. He has a hard time forgiving her. Because, you know, religion was thrown down his throat, and, you know, he's a gay man, and so she would make these accusations and, you know, cause disturbance in his life. And my whole point is that he did not know how to forgive, and he's on a new path now. He's trying to find at least one little thing that he can forgive about her. And he's adding to this list until he gets to the point where ultimately he'll get there. But before, you know, our conversations, he just realized that this is the way he was going to live his life for the rest of his life. And it's funny because what's the definition of resentment? It's like taking poison and expecting the other person to die. And so we're held with all this negativity and all this toxicity in our body temple. And we don't realize that we are with that much energy, and because remember, everything is energy. Everything is energy. And if we're holding on to negative energy and you don't have anything to balance it out with the positive, you're going to create cancer or some crazy stuff in your body because you've not done the work. There's no balance. Our body is like a circuit board. And there has to be the negative and the positive. If there's only negativity, then that's all you're going to get. That's the law of attraction. Like attracts like. If you're positive, then if you're constantly positive and you're living in airy fairy land, then there's no negativity in there. There's no balance in there as well. So we need these. You know, if you think about a painting for a second, when you're painting, the artist doesn't just paint everything light. There's also shadows. If you didn't have the shadows, you'd have no contrast. You have to have something to base it on, right? So I always say that we're the artists with our paintbrushes, and we're painting our life the way that we want it to be. And if we don't like the way it is, we get to repaint it, but we can't blame the other person because we're 100% responsible for our own shit, even though they fucked up.
Right.
That's hard for people to understand. They're like, but yeah, look what they did to me. Look how they showed up to me. Look what they said to me. Yeah, they did, but you still have responsibility in the relationship, even if they were a bitch or a bastard. You know, you still ultimately have that responsibility. So,
let me say something though, because you hit on something that I know you, Greg and Elise, have had a more challenging, I would say, overall acceptance, whether it's from family, friends, religion, if you practice a certain religion. I know growing up, my mother in general was a very closed-minded individual because, I mean, she only learned, grew, and knew from what she was taught. And her mother was taught from what she was taught. And for us growing up, being gay, being lesbian, even people of color, everything, it was something that was extremely like, you don't associate with them or you don't talk to them. So when I started bringing friends in, I would say between my like 5th, 6th grade, I was bringing them to my house, and that's who, you know, that's who they were. My mother had a very, very hard time. And I resented my mother a lot. And I hated my mom because I'm like, you're teaching of love and you love everyone. Well, why don't you love my friend? You know, because my friend's gay? Who cares? Like, what is that to you? You know, so I know that you guys had to have had some adversities where you can talk to the youth, you know, to the people who are listening, who are in that situation or are stuck in that situation or are in the moment or have grown from it. Either way, you guys have experience that I know I can't speak for it myself, but you guys can help on how was it that you healed from accepting the fact that not everyone's going to accept you for who you are.
I feel like personally with me, I just came to a point where I'm looking around at everyone else that, you know, I'm hanging out with, my family, they're all happy, you know, and I have to like have this wall or shell and like kind of hide a little piece of me just to appease. And it just got to a point where I was like, why? Like, if I'm not happy and if I can't be who I am around you, then I don't need to be around you.
Amen. Amen.
So.
Yeah, and you know, I'm not one for having a torch in my hand and standing on the street corner saying we need to celebrate every gay person in the world. You know, because now everybody wants to do. I mean, look at the straight world; they even want to create a pride parade for themselves. But you know, we all need to be celebrated for the diversity in this world, for who we are, whether you're black, white, straight, and gay. You know, here's the thing. I've thought about this so many times. You know, it's difficult in this society living day to day, regardless of who you are. Now, let's say you're a white man. You probably have it a little bit easier because, you know, jobs are more accessible. You don't have the issues that you have in the black community. However, now straight white guys that turn into nationalists and they're, you know, raising their little flags and doing all these things in order to promote themselves, because what's happening is a lot of Latinos are moving into our country and it's changing the demographics for the voting. And that's what they're scared of. That's what's happening in our world. So not only are we healing individually, we're healing collectively as a human consciousness, right?
Right.
And now you think you got the white guy. Now you're taking a woman. A woman, oh my God, it's so difficult for her to live in a society. They don't get paid as much. They're constantly having to be pregnant. You know, they have to contend with the kids, even though the husband's at work, and they still have to care. I mean, think about it. That's a lot of pressure on a woman. I would say women are the stronger sex in a lot of different ways for a lot of different reasons.
I agree.
Now, let's take a black woman. And that's difficult living in today's society, how difficult that is with all the judgments that come up, with the racism that comes up. Now, let's go a little deeper. Let's talk about a black woman who's gay. Now, she's got all of that on her shoulders. Think about the incredible odds of trying to make it from point A to point B in their life with all the pressures. Now, again, we're not victims. And you know, I don't want to be in a gay pride, you know, with my rainbow flag, letting everybody know this is who I am, because it separates me. Now, let me say, there's nothing wrong with people who want to celebrate who they are. Don't get me wrong. For me personally, I don't want to do that. I would rather have a parade for all of us.
Right. For life.
Yeah,
right.
For life.
For love.
And celebrating who we are as individuals and what we have come through and where we are going collectively as a consciousness.
Absolutely.
It's not about, we're not separate people. For instance, right now, I'm looking at my app here. There are 4 of us in this room. And we all have something to say. And it's a piece of the pie.
Mm-hmm.
And when we come together, that pie, it is tasty.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely.
That shit got flavor.
And you know what, Greg, I really want to really, really, really want to point out what you just said about not separating yourselves, right? I remember a while back, I met this couple, and the gentleman said, "Let me introduce you to my husband versus my partner."
Mm.
Right? And I turned around and I said, "You know what, dude? That is so awesome that you introduced him as your husband." Because in society, there's so many times, "Oh, this is my partner." Well, as a guy and a woman, like, a guy isn't going to turn around and let me introduce you to my partner, and it's his wife. You know what I'm saying? He's going to say, "Let me introduce you to my wife."
Yeah.
Right. And so I really agree with you. If we want to start getting away from labels, right, as far as like gay, straight, bi, whatever it may be, right, and just, we're all people. And I think that, we're in that age where people, that as a person, we need to be respectful, not just to ourselves, but other people as a person. Period.
Yeah.
If we want to heal, it's like, I'm not a very religious person, but in the Bible, it says, treat others as you would like to be treated, right? Do unto others as you would do unto yourself, right? It's not that hard, people. It's not that hard.
Well, let me cut in real quick, and I'm sorry if I'm over talking here, and I apologize, but I have something to say. So let's say you're in your house and you turn on the television, okay? Now, look at all the stations that we have today. When I was a kid growing up, we only had ABC, CBS, NBC, right?
Like
now,
27 channels.
In the world, okay, but we're constantly surfing back and forth, and all of a sudden you stop at the station that you resonate with, like a radio station. You do the same thing on the radio. You're going to flip through that music until you find what you resonate with. Now, that has been channeled. So what happens is there's one consciousness, there's one radio station, so to speak, one frequency, but we choose individual ones, and we get to choose which one we want, right? And so what happens is we think our way is the right way because that's the channel that we have chosen. There's gay channel, black channel, white channel. We choose what we want, but we think ours is the right way. And we're each standing on the corner with that Bible in our hand. We're trying to say, this is the way, we got it. We got all the answers. When in all actuality, it's just one source of energy. We've just decided to pick from that energy. That's all that happened.
Facts.
Amen. Amen. So with that being said, because it's almost time for my shorty to go, because you have your niece's birthday party to go to today to show love, right? But
It's my nephew's birthday.
Oh, nephew, shoot. That was close. That was, close enough. Niece, nephew. I wanted to go around, and I'll go last, of course, because I'm gonna go last. Closing thoughts real quick on the topic of healing. Anyone?
For the closing remarks, just know that, like, you above everything else, heal for yourself. Think about it. We're not perfect. We're all imperfect. We make mistakes. You want to be forgiven. You want to be respected. Like, you want peace. So do it for yourself. No one else. Beautiful.
Yeah, I'm going to say this, a lot of times people, we want to have, bring, a good relationship, right, with someone else. In order to become the person that you want to attract, you have to be that person first. So be the person that you want to attract. Because like Greg said earlier, like attracts like. You want somebody who's loving, understanding, caring, loves you unconditionally. Do that for yourself first. And that's what you'll attract to you.
Beautiful.
Heal yourself. If you want somebody who's healed and not projecting their bullshit from a past relationship onto you, do that for yourself first. Because you can't expect anybody to do something for you in a manner that you're not willing to do for yourself.
And I also want to say there's this ebb and flow for healing and for unhealing. It's kind of like a wave on the ocean. We're constantly, it's like pulling away the different layers of the onion until we get to the core. And while we're in the skin, while we're in this human body, we are going to experience heartache. We're going to experience some stuff along the way. Now, you could call that shit. I don't call it that, because life doesn't happen to us, it happens through us. And so when we become that open channel for these wonderful things to take place, if you look about it, think about it, someone who is on their deathbed, and you'll see the little thing on the graph where they're still alive, right? They're still kicking. There's an up and down. There's an ebb and flow. But once they're dead, there's a straight line, just like that. And so as long as we're living, there's going to be an ebb and flow. We're constantly here. We're going to be healing as long as we're here. And even when we leave the planet, we're going to raise our consciousness wherever we go. But the whole point is that while we're here, we need to take personal responsibility for our own stuff and quit pointing the finger and blaming other people, even if they did it wrong.
Right.
True.
Abso-freaking-lutely. And like I said last week, I'll say this week, and I'll say every single freaking day until the day I die. Love yourself. You have to love yourself. If you don't love yourself, you cannot possibly physically, emotionally, spiritually, divinely, universally, you can't love anyone else.
Right.
You have to love, heal to be able to move forward. And that is going to come at your own divine time. There is no wrong time, no right time. Take your time every single day. If you're suffering from something, every single day, just ask yourself, what am I going to learn today? How can I improve myself today? What changes can I make in my life to make myself feel happier today? And every day, I promise and guarantee you, it's going to get easier and easier and easier. And then, baby, it's going to flow. It's going to flow like water, like the ocean. When you look out to the ocean, it is endless. It just never stops. And that's how it is. When you spiritually, emotionally, and physically start loving yourself and you're all in one and in unison, everything will divinely come in its own time. Just be patient. Love is love. Love it, embrace it, and live it.
And, I just want to say one more thing, which is, we're coaches here. So if you feel like you need some help, whether you're gay, black, white, straight, it doesn't matter. We can help you regardless. And so reach out to any of us. I'm talking to the audience here. Reach out to, and if it's not us, go to any coach, someone that you know that you can get help from.
Right.
Absolutely. I was just going to say that Chris is going to be adding our links on the bottom. So if any of us, anyone, if you have questions, period, guys, if you have any questions, if you are struggling through something, if you're hurting right now and you just physically don't know a way out, we can help you. All of us have been through stuff where we learned and grew from. We are here to help. This is why we're spreading our word. Our message is going to get to the masses. It's going to get universally to everyone. This is what we're here for. This is our purpose. This is our voice. We are here to help you. We love you and we accept you, and we will show you and guide you to whatever it is that you need fulfilled.
Absolutely. Yep. So yeah, like Liz said, everybody. So all the links for all of us will be in the, in the descriptions, right? So whoever you want to contact, whether it be Greg or Elise or me or Liz, you'll be able to get all of us, all our information there in the description.
Are you going to sing us out? Are you going to sing us out?
I was just going to say, absolutely. Yes, I was like, no, I just wanted to say, I love you. 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 I do. I do. I love each and every single one of you. I love you guys. I love everyone. I can't think of anything sporadicness.
I love you guys. Take care. Bless everybody.
Love it.